This week's Manshake Gutsiest Player of the Week award goes to the Temora Terror, Liam Martin. He bashed the Roosters forward around last night and opened the game up just before half-time, but late in the match, as we spoke about earlier, he copped a stray Jared Waerea-Hargreaves hip, I think it was in the end. Elbow or hip? Hip, what was it? Hip, yeah. Nathan, how important is he for the Panthers side? He seems to really just get everyone moving and firing everyone up.
Yeah, he's honestly been on fire the last few weeks. Even looking back to the World Cup, the end of last year in the final series we had, he's been just about the best player on the field most games. He had a tough start to the year, obviously with injury, but since he's been back, he does give a lot of people energy, and some of the things he does is just it's unbelievable. He has no awareness of safety.
Is there something missing upstairs with Liam? In a nice way.
The funniest thing is he's probably book smart, the smartest in the team.
But no common sense.
No common sense at all. If he does a trivia, he'll know every answer, stuff like that. But yeah, common sense, it's lacking in Liam's mind.
He gets that serial killer look, that stare through there. It's just like, whatever you want, Liam, you do.
A 30-6 win over the Roosters. You had a bird's eye view from the coach's box. How did you rate Penrith's performance in it?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. As I mentioned before, just set the game up really well at the start, and from there it scored some really good tries. And I thought some of the tries we scored was just good footy. It was sort of unstructured, but we've been speaking about that, trying to find a pass and whatnot. And yeah, I think defence is always at the forefront of what we do. And again, it was good passing.
I think one of the highlights towards the end of the match, it did fire up a little bit there. We saw Jared Waerea-Hargreaves with the water bottle spray on Spencer. How did it all unfold afterwards? Because Spencer looked to be fired up even when he was still walking into the sheds when he got the 10 in the bin. Yeah,
Spenny was pretty fired up, but I think he's not someone that's going to back down to anyone, and he saw that as a bit of a challenge. And I think that's why we love him too. He brings that energy, and he's never going to back down to anyone. And saw that again.
We'll be teammates next year.
I know. Well, at the end of the year, I'd love to be a fly on the wall for day one.
What was he like in the week leading in? The big boys they always talk about who they're going after. Did he say he was going after Jared during the week?
Yeah, I think he wanted to sort of prove himself. Jared's sort of been that big dog now for a while, and Spenny, even with the fact that he's gone there next year, he wanted to prove himself against him, and I didn't think it needed to take much to set him off, and we saw that.
It was a pretty bright start. I think you guys, energy-wise, were really up. That first 60 minutes was actually really, really quick throughout it, and I think that's probably what sets you guys apart. What I find that you guys do really well is that speed, and that transition is always really quick.
Yeah, it's something we look for, and I thought the first half in particular was like that. I think it was 30 minutes ball in play just through the first half, so I think that suits us. And as I said, we try and find our points out the back of that. We know we don't need to score early, or as long as our defence is good and we're in that sort of arm wrestle, I think we always sort of back ourselves. And I thought we set it up really well.
How's it feel for you now? You're a senior player and you're pushing the standards of how you train and the way you play, to see so many Penrith players from the juniors go to other clubs and be successful. How does that make you feel?
It's frustrating, and you'd love to be able to keep everyone, but it's just the world we live in. And you're happy to see guys that have grown up in tougher areas and stuff like that now get good contracts and be able to look after their families, and that's the bright side of it. But it's a bit frustrating just because you want to play with these guys that you've grown up with and come to love and shared so much success with. So, you also like to see them do well financially.
Over the last couple of years, the competition has been like a few favourites that have pretty much won every week. This year is very different, very open season. You just look at the ladder and the scores, and week to week, how does that make the games different?
I think it's this year in particular, it's definitely a lot closer, and you go into every week not thinking that there's ever going to be an easy win. And you got to celebrate the wins when they come. And I thought the start of the year we were sort of finding our feet, and people were playing their best games against us, and it probably caught us by surprise a little bit. But now we really have to focus on each game and not think too far ahead. And I think it's something we've done really well in the past too, is trying to build each week, whether it's a win or loss, come into training, try and get better and push each other for that. And I thought the last sort of month or two is we've got back to what we want to do.
Jack Cogger, in the lead up, do you do a lot of work with him?
Yeah, I tried to. I didn't want to do too much with him this week, just sort of let him go and don't want to cloud him with too much sort of information. And at the end of the day, you want him to play his own game. That's why he's there, and he is a great player. But yeah, we'll be working closely with him over the next few weeks. Yeah, me and him are good mates as well, so it'll be good to work alongside him. But you know, I thought he did a great job last night. Kicking game was really good, defended really strong, and that's the foundation you want.
Do you think the Roosters will make the 8? Everyone's waiting for him to make that big run.
Yeah, I've been waiting for it. You know, I thought at the start of the year that was kind of the main threat, you know, with the team they've got on paper. But yeah, they haven't been playing too well lately. I think, you know, it's kind of that comp where you got to start winning soon because you might not get that real late run the way teams are going. But you know, it's very close as well. So at the end of the day, it only takes one good game to fall back into form, and they've got the players to do that.
Joey, do you think they can?
Yeah, I think they can. Once again, I'm just waiting for him to flick the switch. Well, last night they only scored 1 try late in the game. It's yeah, I don't know. It's hard to put a read on it, but I think they'll make it. Right.
The difference last night was you watch Penrith. They're moving in 3s and 4s. Like the team was moving in waves. When you look at the Roosters, they're moving in 1s and 2s at best. So as a defence, there's not much threat. You know, like most people can make a tackle on nearly anyone, but it's when they've got 2 and 3 coming at you. You know, when they're in sync and their timing's right. The Roosters are a bit all over the shop at the moment. They didn't look like they were much threat at all in defence for Penrith. There was, you know, I think a couple of times they were down on their line and they saved a couple of tries, but there wasn't much pressure at all.
Do you see Manu, the long-term 5'8"?
Well, not at the moment, no.
Well, Robbo made that tactical change last night, put Sandon Smith there and pushed Manu out to centre.
Yeah. No, there's other parts. There's just other parts to 5'8" than just being a big ball runner. You know, there's heaps of different things. You've got to be back on side, you've got to be working your defence, you've got to be getting numbers, you've got to be doing all sorts of things, getting people ready, in position, and he doesn't do any of that really. So if he wants to be a 5'8", he needs to watch some video and check out what other 5'8s are doing because, you know, at the time, they don't look that organised, the Roosters. They don't look dangerous.
Do you think as soon as Sam Walker's recovered from his injury, he'll slot straight back in there?
I have no idea. No idea.
All right, well, we've got plenty more still to come this morning on the Sunday Footy Show. Up next, we will crown May's RLPA Player of the Month, and we'll look back at the Dragons' great escape as the Bunnies nearly pull off a miracle comeback. And a big congratulations to Cody Walker. He has been announced as the RLPA Player of the Month for May. And in a statement, Cody Walker said to the Sunday Footy Show, he said, "I'm really grateful to have been one of the first ever nominees for the Players Player of the Month, and to be voted the winner for May is a huge honour. To be recognised by my peers in this way is very special." So a big congratulations to Cody Walker. But the Bunnies, they could have used him yesterday as the Dragons recorded their biggest scalp of the year with a 36-30 win over the Rabbitohs. What did we make of this game?
Well, they're always underdone, South, and you could just see they lacked that little bit of class. They had plenty of opportunities. They were down there enough to win a game, but I thought Lachlan Ilias could have done a little bit more, to be fair. Young Dean Hawkins, I think between them, they just didn't provide enough. And the Dragons looked like they defended it all quite easily.
Well, the very first points, they went to the Rabbitohs, but it seemed to just galvanise the Red V into some action there. And I think, you know, Ryan Carr spoke about it after. He just wanted to focus on the positives. But the Rabbitohs scored 3 tries in 3.5 minutes to finish that game off. So they've definitely got points in them, but they just left that run too late. The Dragons, I actually thought, played one of their best games that I've seen them play all year.
Big crowd there too, great atmosphere. What about Keon Kalamatangi, Freddie?
Well, yeah, he was good.
Yeah.
It's been interesting watching. He's playing a lot of middle this year. He started in the middle, he ended up on the left in this game. He normally plays on the right. So he sort of shows his versatility. Scored a try, had a pass to set up a try.
Junior Totola, he was very good as well.
Well, they had to be good. Cookie made some couple of line breaks. You know, I think their senior players, although some of them aren't that old, their senior players, I thought contributed. They did a good job, but there just wasn't enough.
Well, considering the players they got out and the strike players, the workhorses, Cam Murray plays like extra halfback in the middle of the field. They did well to get this close.
Latrell, Kobe,
Considering-
Cam Murray,
Just the
number
list
of
goes
super.
Well, half your spine is
And their
missing.
front row, you're missing Tom Burgess.
Jai Arrow as well.
Jai Arrow.
Yeah, so that's a lot of structure that they've lost throughout that middle for this game.
For the Dragons, Ben Hunt's performance,
Oh, he's
what
just
did you make
competitor.
of
Phenomenal.
him?
He's just tough. He just competes. You know what you're going to get every week off him. He's just so tough and competes. I can understand his angst at the moment because if I was in his position, he's played halfback his whole life, and there's talk that for the next couple of years he's going to play him dummy half. At this stage of his career, he doesn't want to do it week in, week out. It's such a tough position. So I can understand the noises he's making, but I hope he stays there. Look, he's their halfback. At rep level, he's a dummy half, he's a hooker, but at club level, he's an out-and-out halfback.
Well, I think he did speak to, he spoke with Shane Flanagan this week, and they said that they actually got in contact and...
Oh, Shane Flanagan.
So
Yeah.
he's a front runner for the job,
the
and
mix.
they actually had a conversation about keeping him
At halfback.
At halfback.
Well, by the sound of it, Flanagan's going to get the job, Shane Flanagan. And look, I think it needs an experienced coach. I think it's too big a job, a lot of politics down there, which has been spoke about. So I think he's the player, he's the coach that probably should get the job.
Roo, do you think he's
Well, I think
the right
whoever
fit as
goes
well?
it, you have to have a firm hand with it, and you have to very clear and set direction on how they want to go. And I think Flanagan's shown that he can do that.
For the Dragons now, obviously, I think that was their fourth win this season, 14 games. What's the focus now? What did the team talk about? Because I think yesterday was avoiding the wooden spoon.
Just consistency. Just turn up each week and
Get the
and
fundamentals
compete.
right. So many times, well, the first two sets of six for the South coming out of trouble, the Dragons gave penalties. It's like, you know, it's the one game you want to put pressure on, apply a bit of pressure, do it early and put these young kids, you know, get their minds, trying to weaken their minds. But they gave two penalties, like crap, offside and line in the ruck or whatever it was. But their fundamentals are just so far behind the best teams that they just can't apply enough pressure.
Yeah, well, the key to it, right, is that circle of pressure. You have to be able to build it through defence, maintain your discipline, hold the ball, get yourself into good position, and then just get in that cycle, get in the arm wrestle. And I think that's what Ryan Carr alluded to in his presser after the game, that they're heading where they want to go, but they know that they just need to continue on to actually maintain that. So.
Yeah. Well, it was a big scalp for the Dragons. I know a lot of Red V fans will be pretty happy this morning considering that performance, but we've got plenty more still coming your way here on the Sunday Footy Show. Up next, we look back at the Broncos' incredible win over the Knights last night, as well as Manly's demolition job on the Dolphins in a classic Friday night points fest. What a thriller this was at Suncorp Stadium. The Broncos with a 24-20 win over the Knights. But I think we've got to speak about, first off, Ezra Mam. Those last couple of minutes, that flick pass is going to be on the highlights reel for years to come.
Yeah, ice the game late and the big players stand up. Look at this pass. That is just as good as it gets. And
It's his second this year, exactly the same.
yeah, have a look at that.
Look at the control that he has when he holds it there.
Get it ready.
Good grip.
Look, he
not pushed
actually
against
throws
his
it
wrist.
underneath.
Yeah.
Underneath the
Underneath
arm.
the arm.
And to be fair, Reynolds does a great job because you can see he was sort of tripping. You know, it was actually on his left shoulder. Not an easy take, but did a great job to win it.
It's a great game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I really enjoy. I actually really like the setup before he throws that. A lot of people sometimes when they go for the offload, they tuck it against the wrist and you lose a lot of control that way. But he grips it, gets some nice space between his hand and the ball and flicks it out underneath the arm of the defender. And Reynolds, I think both of them complement each other beautifully up there at the Broncos.
And the beauty of what they're doing at the moment, that come from Hetherington. It didn't come from Walsh, or it didn't come from Carrigan, or it didn't come from, you know, one of their, you know, known creative players. And that's why they're so difficult to contain, Brisbane at the moment. They're fast and they have a lot of players that
In
are
motion.
skillful.
Yeah. Pat Carrigan, again, you know, he sat off for a little bit, but he just showed heaps of leadership. Again, punching through the middle, quick play the balls. His offloads as well create some havoc. And Payne Haas he's a continual workhorse. So I think they're building for something really, really special this year.
They're
Bronx.
exciting to watch, the Broncos, that's for sure. Joey, what did you make of the two fullbacks, the battle there between Reece Walsh and Kalen Ponga?
Well, both players, excitement machines, so much attack and flair. I thought it was great watching them go. Once again, Reece Walsh was out of this world and Kalen just showed the class he has. Thought he competed really hard, Kalen. And, yeah, this was a real highlight, watching them go at each other.
Kalen won it till 4 minutes to go.
Yeah.
They squared off against each other a couple of times too.
Yeah, we
Like,
saw early in the game. And
look at that.
I think he had 13 tackle breaks, Reece Walsh.
Yeah.
He's lightning.
It was massive.
So fast.
And that pass is so classy.
What does it tell you about Kalen Ponga during the after Game 1's team was announced? He spoke in an interview saying that he actually, when he was overlooked for Game 1, he actually spoke to Billy and said, "Don't consider me for Origin at all. I want to focus on Newcastle and the Knights and what I'm doing there."
Yeah, it just goes to show what a good fella he is. He took it on the chin. He didn't whinge or moan or kick stones. He's got on with it, and I think his form over the last 3 weeks for Newcastle has gone to another level. Obviously, with him going back to fullback has helped that. But you know, he's such an elite player. He's so dangerous with the ball in hand.
It was great to watch him and Reece Walsh, both of them. But then we did see as well on Friday night at Four Pines Park in Brookvale, the Seagulls with a huge win over the Dolphins, 58-18 the final score there. The Seagulls, they just piled on the tries, 10 tries in total. What did you think when you were watching this unfold?
Well, they're quick men out wide. Saab got 2, Garrick got 3, Turbo got 2. Yeah, the Dolphins' defence, there were some tries there that I'm not sure what they'll do for video. If they even bother showing them, they'll just, you know, they weren't there. They just did not turn up.
Croker was really good for Manly as well in the middle. You know, that last kick we just saw the footage of, again, just pushing up, putting himself in a position to contest. I think he's been really good for them. And I think, weren't you guys talking about a sprint off after the game as well? We'd love to see that come grand final.
Tolu Kola or Jason Saab?
I think Saab over.
Saab?
Tolu Kola ran 10.58, something like that, like in his last year at high school, like, which is lightning.
So you go through them. You go Hammer Saab, the Fox, Saab, Kola, Jake Trebojevic.
He had his
He
hand.
does everything else.
You know what stood out for me in this game? It was windy. There was no dew on the surface. So it was played like a day game. A lot of ball movement and it wasn't slippery. So I keep harping on it. We've got to do something about the dewy surfaces at night because that westerly blew all day. There was no dew.
Well, we felt the ground in pre-show and it was like...
Can we buy some westerly? Mate,
I'm sure we could
you're
get
dealing
one
with
of those...
nature, bro.
One of those big wheels.
There's fans,
Just
there's
get some big
blowers,
fans.
there's super soppers. There's got to do something. Our biggest games are played at night. And you turn up and it's wet and slippery and dewy. You totally change the way you play.
You should go buy one of those leaf blowers and get onto Suncorp Stadium the day before game 2.
That'd be nice.
That's
All day,
Nathan. Where's
24
Cleary?
hours?
Nathan, what are we going to do about the dew? Can we help Johns out?
That's Joey's thing.
He said that's Joey's thing.
I need a lot of help in other areas. The least of my problems is dew on the surface.
Seeing Turbo, Tom Trebojevic in action, the confidence that he would get from a performance like that, how good is that leading into State of Origin?
It was glorious. It was glorious. And I think just to see him move confidently, see him punching through defence, see him hitting speed, changing direction, being put in vulnerable positions and coming out of it cleanly, I think that does plenty for your confidence. But even that game prior to Origin 1, he had a blinder as well. So he's just on the up and up. And we knew a quality player, the more football you get into them, the better he's going to be. And yeah, I think this is just
They're a
testament
threat.
to it.
There's a couple of games early where
Manly,
you walked away and went, you know what? Like their forwards were very aggressive and
That Melbourne Storm game at Brookie.
you thought, you know what, if these boys get it together, then they're a threat because they've got so much speed. Kola, Saab, Turbo through the middle. Cherry Evans is like just, you know, he's so unorthodox with the way he plays. It makes it nearly impossible to sort of put tactics against him. He's, you know, just pops up and kicks and they've got a lot. They've got a lot of strings to their bow.
What about for the Dolphins? What does this do to them as a whole, considering as well they've already got a number of players out injured and they got even more injured players?
Well, you'd probably say they're going to struggle for the rest of the year. But
The halfback's back, I think.
I thought
Sullivan's comes back next
Yeah.
week.
is in the
That's
next couple of weeks. I thought they'd come last, second last, or maybe third last. They've surprised me. So, you know, they'll probably keep surprising us. They've lost some key players. Obviously, Tom Gilbert's one. They've lost him for the year. But they keep getting through it. They just keep performing. And that was their worst performance of the year. But other than that, they've really ripped in.
Well, you know what? They've played aggressive. They've turned up most games and they're emotionally copping the end of it. There's a couple of blokes on big suspensions. On top of that, a few injuries. So it sort of shows you, if you want to go down that way and that be your style of play, get up in the faces, you need to be very good at it because there's not much room for error.
Yeah, well, the good news is Sean O'Sullivan, he is tracking well for a return. He was going to return in their match against the Broncos, but it sounds like he's on track for an early one, which is certainly good news for the Dolphins.